Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Little Rock Board of Directors meeting for October 3rd, 2016. Thank you all for being in attendance tonight as we do the city's business. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the roll.
Director Hendricks, Director Richardson.
Here.
Director Webb. Here. Director Kazort.
Here.
Director Wright.
Here.
Director Wyrick. Here. Director Compuris. Director Fortson.
Here.
Director Adcock. Vice Mayor Hines.
Present.
Mayor Stodler.
Here. Let me call on Vice Mayor Lance Hines for our invocation, please.
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather here today to take on the people's business, to render good judgment. We seek your guidance. We also ask that you look over all of our city employees that are out doing work for the citizens of this city. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business this evening is an opportunity for me to issue a proclamation. So I'm going to give the gavel to our Vice Mayor and go down to the podium for this. I am happy today to issue a proclamation that recognizes this is a very important week. Obviously, one of the fundamental responsibilities that we have as public officials is public safety, and that entails not only our police department but also our fire department. So I'm very happy to issue a proclamation that reads as follows. Know ye all people by these presents greetings. Whereas the City of Little Rock is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting in our city, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, and according to the U.S. Fire Administration and the National Fire Protection Association, home fires killed more than 3,428 people in 2014, and the national fire death rate between 2010 and 2014 was 10.6 per million population. Whereas cooking equipment is the leading cause of home structure fires and associated injuries, and the third leading cause of all home death fires, along with heating and electrical equipment and smoking materials. And whereas the risk of dying in a home structure by fire caused by smoking material rises with age, and home candle fires are reported to the U.S. Fire Department every 3 minutes on average. And whereas in 2014, 52 civilian fire fatalities were reported in the United States by the U.S. Fire Administration for the state of Arkansas. And whereas Fire Chief Gregory Summers and the men and women of the Little Rock Fire Department are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas in 2016, the Fire Prevention Week theme is Don't Wait, Check the Date, Replace Smoke Alarms every 10 years, is because many homes likely have smoke alarms that are past their expiration date, putting people at increased risk in the event of a home fire. Smoke alarms play an essential role in home fire safety, but they have to be working properly in order to protect people. People tend to assume that simply having smoke alarms in their homes ensures adequate protection from fires, but it takes regular testing and maintenance to ensure that that's the case. And part of this effort is making sure that citizens know how old smoke alarms are in their homes and that they are replaced every 10 years. Now, therefore, I, Mark Stodler, the mayor of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim October 9th through the 15th, coming up as Fire Prevention Week here in the city of Little Rock. I'm happy to sign this and witness thereof hereunto. I have affixed my seal and signature on this third day of October 2016. Chief Summers is with us today. Chief, I'd like to present this to you and tell you how much we appreciate the men and women of the fire department and what they do to keep us safe. I want you to know that my fire alarms go off quite frequently. I'm up there replacing batteries all the time, it seems.
We appreciate you.
You bet. Thank
Thank
you. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, sir, and you're absolutely correct. Most homes have working smoke alarms, but we just don't realize that they could be out of date. So we encourage you to check the date on them. And if you need a free smoke alarm, you can call 918-3700, and the Little Rock Fire Department will be glad to come out and install those smoke alarms for you. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, that concludes the presentations that we have for today. We have some additions to the agenda. If you will look over M1, 2, and 3, which are all resolutions, and if I could ask for a motion to add those to the consent agenda, please. There's a motion, so moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, saying nay. They'll be added to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, if you would now, if you would read the consent agenda, items 1, 2, and 3, and the other additional items, items 1 through 5, please.
The consent agenda consists of a motion to approve the minutes of the March 15, 2016 and April 5, 2016 Little Rock City Board of Directors meetings, a resolution to amend the adopted 2016 to 2018 capital improvement programs funded from the proceeds of the 3/8 cent capital sales and compensating use tax for Ward 7 and for the purposes. A resolution to increase the contract award to Redstone Construction Group Incorporated for additional street resurfacing within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. A resolution to award professional services contracts for design of the 2016 to 2018 capital improvement program funded for the proceeds from the 3/8 cent capital sales and compensating use tax and for other purposes. A resolution to certify local government endorsement of HIA Velo LLC located at 2201 Brookwood Drive, Little Rock, Arkansas, to participate in the Arkansas Tax Back programs as authorized by Section 15-4-2706D of the Consolidated Incentive Act of 2003 and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a one-year contract with EVS Mid-South in the amount of $185,980.80 as the sole bidder to a contract for the purchase of firefighting protective coats and pants for the Little Rock Police Department and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with EVS Mid-South for a total cost of $1,711,732.01 for the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus for the Little Rock Fire Department and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with NCS Incorporated for a total cost of $73,450 to provide truss, roof, and related work at Little Rock Fire Station Number 7 and for the purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second. Director Hendricks, do you have a question on any of these items? Discussion?
Through
Go ahead, please.
On Resolution 2, well, let's start with 1. On 1, Mr. Moore, I would like to have the minutes up until its current status. I need it for business. I need them up to today's date.
Director Hendricks, they're not available. As you can see, at this point, we're asking for approval of the
March 15th and
March
April 5th.
and April. I mean, it's a process to get through them. We'll bring them forward as soon as we can, but we do them in order. So the next one will be in April and May.
So you're saying I cannot get June, July, August? Is that?
We're working as quickly as possible to get the minutes, but this is where we are at this point.
Okay, well, I'll send you an FOI for that. On 2 and 3, is there an amount that you're doing for these? Dollar amount?
Director Hendricks, would you repeat that, please?
I'm asking Mr. Moore for the dollar amount on 2 and 3. If he could provide that for me, not today, but if you would get that to me. That's it. Thank you.
Did you get your information?
Or if he could just.
Sure. It's
I
in the
believe it's in the
document.
supporting documents that you've got on your computer.
But we'll follow up.
All right,
I
very
wasn't
good.
gonna do it because I don't know. Thank you.
Director Richardson, do you have a question on any of the items on the agenda? Go ahead. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Bruce, on the purchase of the firefighters' equipment, it's listed as a sole bidder. Are we issuing a sole source contract? Or is there any particular reason why, or any specialty they have that eliminates anybody else from bidding on this contract?
They were the only bidder, Director Richardson.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Did we do
It's RFP.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second and discussion. All in favor of the passage of the resolutions indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, saying nay. The resolutions are approved. We can now move on to that portion of our meeting, which is called citizen communication, which is an opportunity to allow 3 minutes for a specific item that is not already on our agenda or on some past or future agenda, and to allow a person to express either in writing or orally any viewpoint or grievance or other message they wish to bring to our attention. And we take an opportunity on this first meeting of the month to hear citizen communication at this time. I do have some cards, and so we'll proceed with citizen communication. The first one I have is from Maxim Bay. Mr. Bay, before you finish, if you would let us know what your home address is, so if we have to follow up with you, we can.
My home address is North America.
Well, I have that, but that,
I don't want to make my private address public on the record, so I'm not going to give you my.
all right, well, if there's any follow-up, we'll have a difficult time finding you. But go ahead, please.
I'm not hard to find. Good evening to the board. I laid out, well, my issue tonight I want to address is police authority and where they gain their jurisdiction from and/or authority. I'll be referencing Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, and I'll be referencing color of law and how your entity, Little Rock Corporation, and your private security that you hired to be mercenaries in our streets, and your system is identifying us using color of law. I've already addressed this, and in color of law, in this law dictionary, it says people of color are not real persons.
But just,
Well, you want to show me?
you got 3 minutes, so
my
please.
point is, again,
You've got 3 minutes, so please go ahead.
I know what I got. But I said on each one of you, on your desk, civil orders that was written by the Pope given to Obama in the White House July 4th of 2014 that says all police in North America are supposed to be disarmed. So if you read that, I share that, and I hope that, you guys will respond back to the community. And I really like to ask person to or man to man, why is it that we have to keep identifying each other as colors and crayons? Why is it that we have to keep playing the race game if so-called people are race baiting? Why do people have to be colors? Why does the city of Little Rock have the city school district teaching our own people that they're colors, and this law dictionary says a colored person isn't even recognized? So when you murder our people down, we have no justice. I'm trying to figure out why do our own bar attorney members don't even acknowledge this and bring it to the forefront. And our people run around in the street calling themselves black persons, and at law, that's not even a real person. But you're teaching this in our schools. So you're teaching our people color of law off, you're forcing them into it. Can we stop playing games? Can we?
Mr. Bay, this board does not
And-
handle the school issues.
and-
The school board is certainly
And
there.
I've only got 3 minutes. And since this is America and we're not colored persons, and we know the history and the secret is this is actually Morocco, and y'all stole our birthright, and you're hiding it, and we're Moors, can we quit playing games, please? Aren't we tired of the bloodshed? If you teach us the nationality and teach us the truth about the Constitution, why would anybody be upset? Why? But you got to teach color of law and make people crayons so you can murder us in the street and pay people to go home, administrative leave. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Bay. The next card I have is from Benny Johnson. Mr. Johnson, Reverend Johnson.
The mayor still Vice Mayor Hines. Every time I look at a dash cam video of how this police officer handled Mr. John Walker the other day, I get madder and madder. One thing, he didn't have no business even crossing the street. Mr. Walker informed him that he had legislative laws what he can do to women. Now, the way this officer talked to Mr. John Walker, you would think the Emancipation Proclamation hadn't been signed. He was totally out of order. And let's put aside Mr. Walker being a good civil rights attorney and a state legislature. He's an elderly man. For example, I love and respect Director Hendricks. I don't care how mad she will make me, I will never disrespect her. I wouldn't even think about disrespecting her because I think that the Lord will strike me down right now. This guy totally disrespected Mr. Walker, like he's saying, playing the race game, calling him a beta, talking about I've been dealing with you since 1994, and tell me, is this a white man, would you be here filming? Yes. If he do a public figure like this, just imagine what he doing to a normal citizen. He totally disrespected this man, and there needs to be some disciplinary action taken against this man. Now, I'm looking at some good police officers here. We got some good police officers. I'm not saying we got some very good police officers, but this young man, he definitely needs to be disciplined because he's definitely out of order. Now, if we have a chief, I'm talking about Kitten Buckner, who talked down to black people, then other people gonna follow suit. I talked to Mr. Bruce Moore about this man's personality and his disrespect toward black people 3 times. Mr. Moore always answered, give him a chance. Well, he been here 2 years. How much more chance are we gonna give him to be disrespectful to people? We got a racially divide. Now, if this had been a black officer with a white high-profile person, this officer would have been disciplined, no doubt about it. It's a racial divide that's going on in this city. Chief Buckner come in and try to dismantle this OK program, which is a very effective program that's been all over this nation. And again, I say he's been disrespectful to black folks who help pay his salary. And I want to say to Mr. Moore, it's time to stand up, tighten your belt, and man up, and demand Chief Buckner and these racist police officers give respect to black people in the black community. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Johnson. Chief Buckner and I visited earlier today, and this particular matter is being reviewed administratively, and it will take a course that is appropriate. The city has a way of dealing with these issues, so there'll be that matter will be reviewed, and if it's appropriate, it'll be going to the Civil Service Commission. Mr. Mann, do you want to elaborate at all on that?
Mayor, you stated it accurately. There'll be an investigation. Should disciplinary action be taken, the officer involved would have the due process right to go to the Civil Service Commission, which would conduct an independent review of that discipline if it gets that far. But before that time, there has to be the administrative investigation that you just mentioned.
Thank you. Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment on what Benny Johnson just said. I think that it's really time that some of us as board members, we have a responsibility too. That's right. We are the bosses of Bruce and Kent Buckner. And I think we would be remiss if we sit up here and pretend nothing's happening. That's right. That's right. Something really needs to happen. That's right.
Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. So as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Mann, your explanation of the relationship between discipline and Civil Service Commission doesn't necessarily communicate, doesn't necessarily tell people we don't have any internal controls in terms of discipline, correct? So people are not expecting, we don't expect the Civil Service Commission to handle internal discipline in the city of Little Rock.
No, sir. Director Richardson, what happens is the disciplinary decisions are made by the chief.
And then it gets appealed to Civil Service Commission?
Correct.
Okay. I want to make sure anybody have a misunderstanding.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
Again, I would like to ask before this board adjourn that I will make a motion, and it is to the effect that this board will intervene with Mr. Moore. I think it needs to get to Mr. Moore as the manager of this city before it gets to, what board is that? The one that you just mentioned? Yeah, I just think that the civil service is really deferring action. And I think this board has a responsibility, and if you're not man or woman enough to do it, then I think that's bad.
Director Hendricks, you made some comments and you said something about a motion. Are you making a motion?
And do this before we adjourn. If anybody else wants to make it, but no, I did not think of doing it now, because this is citizen participation time.
Director Wright, you're recognized, please.
Got me, okay. I just want to be clear. I received the communication from you, Mr. Moore, regarding this incident where you said that after you had reviewed the tape, you felt that some steps needed to be taken, and you had taken those steps, but you also further stated that the video would be used as a training tool for our officers, and that in order to prevent something like this from happening again. Now, as I understand it, our role as board members does not equate to personnel matters. And at this point, this is an administrative personnel matter. Mr. Mann, is that correct?
Director Wright, you're absolutely correct. It's there's a process to follow internally by the police department, and the board would not have any involvement in that.
Okay.
And then, as I said earlier, should it get to the point where disciplinary action's taken, then that officer would have a due process right to appeal to the Civil Service Commission under our Arkansas law and also the rules and regulations of our commission. And even after that, should the commission make a decision that either the city or the officer may disagree with, either has the right to appeal to circuit court. So there is a process in place.
But it's not a role for this board in that process.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Mann, isn't it true also that any aggrieved individual can make a complaint directly to the Civil Service Commission?
The way it works, Mayor, is that the person who may be aggrieved by actions of a police officer may complain directly to the police department and request an internal affairs investigation. They need to do that under the rules and regulations of the commission within 30 days of the date of the incident. At that point, there still will be the internal affairs investigation, and at the conclusion, the chief will notify the person who made the complaint of his decision. And if the person disagrees with Chief Buckner's decision, they have the right to appeal directly to the Civil Service Commission for a citizen complaint review.
I see. Okay, Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Hendricks, just point of clarification. We do have internal controls in terms of disciplinary action. The involvement of civil service comes after we have disciplinary action. So just a point of clarification on that. Second point, Mayor, Director Wright, I received the same communication from Bruce in terms of we're going to use this as a training moment. And well, here's my question about that. And I don't have expertise in law enforcement. I don't have training in that beyond me going to the Citizen Police Academy many, many moons ago. But I'm not sure I know any modalities that you can train with regards to sympathy and empathy. The only training moment I saw in that film, that video, was when the officer told the transporting officer, keep your mic on, keep your camera on. Then after he told him that, he whispered him something in his ear. After he told him to keep all audio recording devices on. And beyond that, I'm not sure I could see any other training moments in there. I mean, I don't know how we train sympathy and empathy. The only training moment I saw was when the officer told the transporting officer, make sure you keep your camera on, make sure you keep your audio on. And then shortly after he said that, he put him back to him and whispered something to him. I don't know if that's his training part in it or not, but I do know that this certainly has resonated in the community, man. I know a lot of us have had communication from our constituents, and this has been a troubling matter for this community across the board. And I don't think it's being couched in terms of black and white, beyond the fact that somebody introduced race into it. The term race baiter, I think, has been something that's resonated with a lot of folks in this community, and I just think we need to get us its due attention and make sure we're properly delivering the right kind of training that we think needs to be appropriate, that's going to be beneficial to not only the appearance of our police officers, but the actual relationship our officers with certain parts of certain communities. We need to make sure we're building up on that just as much as we're building anything else in our city, if we want our city to move forward in a positive, productive way.
Mr. Moore, do you have any comments you wish to make relative to what's happened since this incident?
As Mr. Mann outlined, an aggrieved citizen can initiate an internal affairs investigation. Also, the chief of police can. And that's what Chief Buckner did on Tuesday. He initiated an internal affairs investigation. There is a process for that. It is in internal affairs at this point. Once that decision is made or that recommendation, it goes up to the chain of command. Ultimately, it will go to Chief Finks, who's over patrol. Then that recommendation will go to Chief Buckner. So the process is outlined. Everyone will be interviewed, both the individuals who were arrested, the officers, and then ultimately Chief Buckner will make a decision on what discipline, if any, is recommended. And that's where we are in the process. And I would just ask the citizens of our city to let the process go forward. I think it's important for everyone with this process in place that it be able to go forward.
And one other question, Bruce. Am I correct that some of the people on the scene at that incident were actually being trained? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Director Hendricks, do you have something else?
I want to respond to
Go ahead, please.
Director Richardson. I think all of us know that we have laws, and I agree with what Mr. Mann has said, but I will be redundant in saying that this board has a right and a privilege to say what they want. At least this community will know that you care. But to sit here and pretend nothing's happened and to say that we've got to go through all these procedures that were set by you-know-who to begin with, it doesn't make sense. So at least I'm saying tonight that I support the community that's here tonight, and I too saw all of this that was on the cable. Some of the stuff you saw, some of it, some of you didn't see all of it. But you can be assured that the reason why the residents are here tonight is because of what has happened. And if we want to just, I don't know, I don't want to use one of those street terms, is that what it seems that the law would do, which they cannot keep us from doing what Ferguson has done and some of these other towns. That's my comment. And as far as going through all this procedure, I don't think it's necessary.
Director Wright, you're recognized, please.
This whole thing has prompted a question that has been put to me, Mr. Moore, Mr. Mann, and that question is regarding internal affairs. Is there any law that says that police have to police themselves? Is that required under law? Can it not be an outside entity?
You mean the initial investigation?
Internal affairs aspect of this.
Director Wright, I think how I would answer that is that the rules and regulations are developed by the police department as directed by law. And one of the rules and regulations and also one of the general orders is to create the internal affairs division to do these investigations. So an internal disciplinary investigation has to be done by the department. Now, the Civil Service Commission is the independent body which serves as a check on the internal investigation. They are independent.
Okay,
Does that answer?
so that is the checks and balance that protects the public?
Yes, Director Wright. In addition to that, the fact that an appeal is permitted from a Civil Service Commission decision to Pulaski County Circuit Court, and after that, if the person still remains aggrieved, they can appeal to the Arkansas appellate courts. So there is independent review.
So the state of Arkansas law requires or allows police departments to set up their own internal affairs divisions, or it requires that.
It permits that, Director Wright.
It permits that.
Right. And
Is-
and the rules and regulations of the department have been adopted many years ago, or approved, I should say, by the board.
So can the board change that?
Well, I'm suppose the board could suggest that a rule and regulation be considered for change, but I've not given that a lot of thought. I'd like to research that before I
I'd
gave a
appreciate it
definite
if you
opinion.
would research it, because I've had some of my constituents approach me and ask the question, why would we allow or require police to police themselves? And so I said that I would bring this matter up. I did not know all this was going to transpire, but I'd had these conversations previously with some of my constituents. So I would like for you to research that and give me a response,
Yes, ma'am, I sure will.
and a written response.
I will.
Thank you.
Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, let me dovetail that last question. There is nothing that preempts us prior to initial internal affairs to request an outside entity for an investigation, correct? We could internally request the state police or somebody else outside the Little Rock Police Department to conduct this investigation.
I think that would lie within the discretion of Chief Buckner if he did not feel comfortable investigating a particular situation. But I'm not sure that the board, that almost would be delving into a personnel issue which has been delegated to the chief.
Right, I know, I'm not trying to get into personnel matters. I know we're policy, and I never try to micromanage in the department, but I'm saying, suggest that to a complainant who may want to file that complaint, can that person request an outside entity for the internal investigation?
Well, the way our rules and regulations of the Civil Service Commission operate, and they do apply in this situation, if the person who wished to make a complaint wants to make a complaint, they go directly to the police chief and file a request for an internal affairs investigation. That's what starts the process. And they need to do that. I want to add this to make sure everyone understands. They need to do that within 30 days of the date the particular incident or situation occurred, in order to preserve the right to have the Civil Service Commission review that decision of the chief.
So that doesn't necessarily mean the person who's impacted by that action has to request that. Say, for instance, there was some kind of incidents involving our police department and one of our young people in our community, and it was something that people had questions about in terms of the interaction and the result of the interaction. Could anybody in the community request an outside investigation prior to the internal affairs investigation?
Director Richardson, I'm not aware of any law that governs that one way or the other. I will say this, that back in 1997, the Arkansas General Assembly amended the Civil Service Act to provide for citizen complaints to go directly to the commission as the independent body.
Well, we might have a legislator who may want to get involved in that again. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. The next card I have is from Carolyn Heitman.
If I can move, I'm getting old, you know. Mayor, Vice Mayor, board members, city staff, I'm Carolyn Heitman. I'm president for the John Barrow Neighborhood Association. With me tonight is Ms. Shara Tharp and Betty Snyder, one of our board members and one of our neighborhood residents. We are here tonight to thank all of you for helping us fulfill one of our dreams of a community center in the John Barrow area. This is something that was a vision over 25 years ago for our neighborhood, to have somewhere where our kids could go, feel safe, the parents would not be worried about where their children were, and we would be allowed to have different programs for our kids. Right now, in our ball program alone, we have sometimes over 700 children. And it's not just from the John Barrow neighborhood. We have people from Little Rock, North Little Rock, Bryant, Jacksonville, Sherwood. So we offer something in our little neighborhood for everybody, even though they have the bigger ballparks. But in 1996, we worked with city staff and the Planning Commission to come up with the first ever Little Rock neighborhood plan. The resolution was passed by the board in 1996. We have reached some of our goals, and now finally we reached this one. Hopefully we'll be opening around November. Director Wright, is that correct still? Okay, so, but this all started, and I got to give you a little history. It all started down in West End Park, which is now Union Park, with a partnership between the Rosedale Optimist Club and the John Barrow neighborhood. We couldn't use our park because it was overrun with vandalism, undesirable activities. We didn't want our kids there. So we partnered with them, and we put 16 T-ball teams down in that field. Our park is a lot better now than it's been in 20 years. So we formed this partnership with the Optimist Club, and they let us start playing over at the ballpark. Well, we stay out there many a day doing registrations in the rain, the cold, sometimes even sleet, until a local vendor gave us a building, our little office house up there, so that was a real blessing. Then from there, the City of Little Rock and the Rosedale Optimist Club and John Barrow worked together, and the properties were acquired by the city. Thank you. Our community center now sits on part of that property. Many people, who have already passed on, worked diligently on achieving this goal, but without the persistent help from our ward director in lobbying to get the needed funding, we would not be here addressing this board tonight. We have a new entrance to the ballpark. If you noticed, if you're coming down Barrow Road toward Colonel Glenn, it's on the left. I know, I got to do this. I'm wrapping it up. We want to name our street after, our driveway after Doris Wright.
We'll take that under consideration and refer that over to the city attorney's office. Now, there's some legislation on this. I'm not sure if it applies or not, but we'll ask the city attorney to respond. Okay, next card is Barbara Jones.
Yes, Barbara Jones. Would say hello, but I'm feeling I shouldn't even be here. But I'm here hoping there's not going to be technical difficulties, as usually when I do come. But like to say, came here, as I was told, for 3 years, but I have it documented as 2.5 years to get a bus to go north and south, up and down John Barrow. That reason was because my mother was in a home, Sandalwood, where she was murdered. That's the word I use. Rotted. I have pictures, not only in this state. Every attorney that I went to in this state, some would keep it for a year. Oh, this is an open and shut case. Then give it back. But they didn't know. I also had other investigators checking it out. Have to go out of state when you want something done and not playing for fun. Cars, mine. Hit and run. Did the police investigate it? When I go to them, they're laughing at me. You're Barbara Jones. I know my name. I might need to change it, but that is my name. Beat things to death, what Little Rock does. And I say that word, a little rock, because that's what you use us as, little rocks. Doing things where I stay at. You listen in on phones, but who can you go to when they are all sticking together? My hit and run, I was with State Farm, and I don't mind saying it because I would like for them to sue me so I could re-sue them. Okay, State Farm sent me to Landers, who they stick with. I don't know. They said, oh, this is not the one who sells cards because I'm going west. No, I'm going south. On the left-hand side, charge $4,000. But if I didn't have the knowledge of when a car is hit and ran, knowing that you don't pay the $500 deductible, you pay $2, the creature in there tried to make me not do it. My car is still not up to par. But who can I go to? Each time I'm paying over and over. But I would just like for you all to know, I'm wanting the citizens to know, don't be just quiet all the time. We've got to do something. If we don't stick together and do something, nothing will ever be done. I'm down here so that I want the citizens, because I felt up under this issue, there would be people listening up on that situation. That's why I want them to know. You go to fair housing. I don't even know why they use that word fair, because they're not. They are not fair. I go to all of their board meetings. What am I there for? Just for show. Oh, that's the lady who runs her mouth all the time. Yes, I have diarrhea of the mouth, but I wait until I find out these things. But you did one mistake. When you put in my prescriptions wrong for medication, when I go to Tennessee, they find out what you all can do.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. The next card I have is from Barbara Miller.
Hello. I'm here tonight to address the problem that the citizens want to see to come back. We used to have a state inspection on our cars, and they took that away. They want that to come back. When you renew your tags every year, you cannot get your tags until you have all your lights and windshield wipers and everything is working. So they want that to come back, and they don't know why they took that away. We have too much unnecessary stopping by police for little simple things like that lead into death, end up being going to jail for just little simple stuff. So they want that to come back. State inspection, where you went to a service station, places like that was doing those inspections. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Miller. You might want to visit with your state representative about that. That would require some changes in our current state laws. So I would encourage you to also talk to your legislator as well, because there's an upcoming session and those changes could be made at that time. The next card I have is from Edmund Davis. Mr. Davis?
Is Miss Jessie behind me? Miss Jessie? Right here. Okay. Okay. To the board, we want to say thank you to the mayor and vice mayor, to the city manager, to everyone here, distinguished members, thank you. And to the people standing behind me, thank you all for being here as well. I want to make sure that
Mr. Davis,
as well.
nobody can hear that up
Oh,
here, and if you'll
okay.
direct your comments to us, we'll make
Okay.
sure they get the information.
To the people behind me, thank you all for being here as well. I have here a letter. It's from Jamie Collins from the Public Works Civil Engineering, and I'll read it verbatim. It says, Oxford Valley Drainage Improvement Project to collect and carry water to concrete ditches starting at 25 Courtfield and going north to 8112 Oxford Valley Drive. I'm here as a representative of Oxford Valley Neighborhood Association as the current president. And of course, I wanted to address that because this here is a text message from some of our members, and it says, the Oxford Valley Neighborhood Association concern is a location that is being addressed by this $200,000 money here in this letter. It talks about it does not include homes on Churchill and also Claybrook that are receiving water runoffs. And it says, or does it? So we definitely want to address this to make sure that the civil engineers are accountable for what they do. And I have a lady, one of my colleagues here standing here. She actually lives over there, and she was the genesis behind putting this letter into place. And I want Ms. Jessie to actually say something regarding her property and the water runoff.
Yes, I was here March the 15th before you all. I live at 3 Churchill. And on April the 2nd, Mr. Moore, my husband Ed Dell, and Miss Vera, and BJ, and Ben and Lowe was out to go through the neighborhood and went through my yard. I was off. I was out of town at the time. And then I called back on, I called back on June the 29th and speak to Joanne Adcott. And she directed me to Honeywell, and I didn't get him. He was out of town. He was out of the office. So they gave me Nathan Charles. So I did talk with him, and when he called me back, he said that he knew what the problem was before they put the houses up. We have 5 houses. We had 5, now we got 8 houses where all the water is draining off into my backyard. I got pictures. It's like a river. Me and my husband have invested a lot of money into the property to try to correct it, but it didn't do no good. So we still have that same problem.
So we would like to know, is this 200,000, and we're definitely thankful for this funds right here to get it all fixed up, but we want to know, does it cover that area that's being addressed, because right now it doesn't cover it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, and thank you as well. 313 Oxford Valley, is that right?
3.
3
Churchill.
Oxford Valley.
Churchill. I'm
Churchill,
correct.
Churchill,
Drive.
okay,
Yes, sir.
sorry. John Honeywell is in the audience, and I know he's taking notes on this. And we have your card, Mr. Davis, and if you will put your phone number down here, I'm sure we'll be able to follow back up on this matter.
It's on the card.
And the water is coming off of Courtfield. That's where all the water is coming
All right, well,
from.
they've been taking notes on this, and they'll follow back up with you and let you know about the money that's there and whether or not it'll cover this area of the city as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the citizen communication cards that I have. We can now move on to the other items on our agenda, and we have 3 ordinances. Let me ask for, they're grouped, so let me ask for the first reading of these 3 ordinances.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, an ordinance to waive the right-of-way dedication provisions of Section 1 of the Master Street Plan of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, for the property located at 3724 West 32nd Street in connection with a conditional use permit for a daycare center, and for the purposes, an ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. First reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these ordinances on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to waive the right-of-way dedication provisions for Section 1 of the Master Street Plan of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, for the property located at 3724 West 32nd Street in connection with the conditional use permit for a daycare center. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
Move we suspend the rules and place the ordinances on third and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these ordinances on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to waive the right-of-way dedication provisions of Section 1 of the Master Street Plan of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, for the property located at 3724 West 32nd Street in connection with a conditional use permit for a daycare center. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
Okay, we've had 3 readings. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ordinances have passed. There is no further business to come before us this evening.
Move we adjourn.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We're in adjournment. Thank you.